Been an interesting one. How's your Monday starting? Mine seems to just keep the fun going. I swear, every day is an adventure, every single day. Some days more than others, and today is the more than others. But I am here, you're here, so let's get to it, shall we? I realized, or I didn't realize, I discovered this weekend that you could cut off the beginning portions or the end portion of videos, especially from lives. So one of the things that we're going to start, or that I'm going to start doing next week, is I'm going to have a little intro play, like a 10-second thing that once I'm done just chatting, giving everyone a few minutes to come on, I'm going to play that and we're going to get right into it. So that way, if you are watching this as a replay, you don't have to worry about all the commentary before. What generally happens is, come on and chit chat and just give you a couple of minutes. But if you're listening to replay, you really don't need to listen to those few minutes. And as people listen, or more people listen, as I go on, the chatter might get a little bit more. There might be a few questions at the beginning, things like that, that you don't necessarily need to listen to. So just heads up. I have to figure out how to do that, which is why I'm saying starting next week, if I can figure it out. If not, I'm just going to pick a time and, I'll mark it and then I'll cut it off with the replay so that way you don't have to worry about that. That little piece of tape behind me is bothering me, so I need to remove it. We have had people coming in to look at the texture around the house, and when they put the texture on, oh my gosh, you guys, oh, you're so messed up. I don't even know what the texture on my walls is supposed to look like. Like, that's how messed up it is. So let me get that piece of tape out of here because it's really bugging me. It's a big deal. I only have one that is still using binkies, but I swear that one kid, and we keep it in the bedroom, and look up, and they're everywhere. All right. So here's your mark. Good morning. Good morning. Today we are talking about supplements. And one of the things that I have been finding, especially recently, I don't know about you guys, do you get all of those posts, all the advertisements? You need this for your brain. You need this for your muscles. You need this for something else. It is never ending. And the supplement industry is one of the largest in the world, okay? As far as production, as far as sales, if you want to make a lot of money, you have a ton of competition in the supplement industry, but it is huge. And I'm very big on supplementation, but there are some caveats there, and those caveats are what we're going to talk about today. There's a lot about supplementation that people don't understand. And what ends up happening is you're told you need this, and then you need this, and then you need this, and then you need that, right? And now you have a pill box where you didn't have a pill box before. You don't want to be a pharmacy, so you're trying to be as healthy as you can so that you can avoid the pharmaceuticals in your pill box. But now you have so many pills and so many supplements that you need an extra large pill box because otherwise they're just going to go everywhere, right? Do you really need all that? Have you thought about that? Has anyone ever sat down and said, do you really need to take this, this, and this? Or are you hearing more frequently than not that you need to take all of it? That's not necessarily true. You do not need to take everything on the market. You don't need to take supplementations for every single thing in your body. You don't. That is the premise of today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm trying to get really a lot better at introducing myself, which is part of the reason I thought we're just going to have an intro. I'm going to play it. It takes care of this because I just start talking. I get on topic and I talk and I go about my day. And I forget to tell you guys who've never seen me before who I am. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Bonnie. I'm a holistic nutritionist. I've been in the field for about 18 years now. And my focus is helping people, my specialty really is helping people with inflammatory conditions reduce inflammation to the point that they're living pain-free, healthy, energetic lifestyles. They aren't taking a shit ton of supplements, and they're eating healthy foods that they find are delicious. I love food, but I am picky like a teenager picky, or a toddler. Take your pick. And if it's not good, I'm not going to eat it. And I follow the same principles for my clients and for the people that ask me questions and ask me for a little bit of help. Because I don't necessarily work with every single person that asks me for help. I always bring notes because I have ADHD. This keeps me on track. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the history of supplements. Because once you understand where our supplements actually came from, you'll understand how we ended up here. And I've got a couple of fun little tidbits for you to add in there. Just some interesting information that you guys might get a chuckle out of. We're going to talk about the difference between fat-soluble and water-soluble supplementations, vitamins, minerals, things like that. Whether we actually need all the supplements that are out there, all their shiny objects being sent to you. Do you really need them? We're going to talk about that. And we're going to discuss how you can tell. How do you monitor what you're taking and know whether it's helping you, whether it's something you actually truly need, or is it something you're taking for preventative but you don't really need it? We're going to talk about why that is. And we're going to talk about some side effects that you can pay attention to. Especially nowadays with COVID, one of the top recommendations is vitamin D. And I'm just going to write out there just in case you're one of those people that hit the middle mark and you're like, yeah, I can't listen to this, and then you don't come back. Vitamin D is a big one. We are finding a lot of people overdosing on the vitamin D because of COVID. It's one of the supplementations that doctors are recommending to help you fight COVID, right? To help you fight a COVID infection. Whether you contract COVID or you don't, it helps you. But no one's really monitoring their vitamin D anymore. They're just trusting, okay, I'm supposed to take this 5,000 IUI of vitamin D. So let me just take this every day in and out, and we'll just do what my doctor says, right? Makes sense. Problem. When you overdose on vitamin D, which is entirely possible, and you do not come back to healthy, balanced, neutral, your eyesight is affected, so you start having blurry vision, brain fog, but ultimately your vision is the first one that you can see. And where vitamin D is supposed to give you energy, it now takes it. So you're feeling tired, you're feeling fatigued, but you're taking your vitamin D. And it's a major problem, you guys, because the thing with vitamin D is it can lead to death. It can kill you. And some of these supplements are exactly that, is they can kill you. They can lead to death. It's not typical to get there nowadays, thankfully, with doctors and modern medicine. However, it is entirely possible. It is something that has happened in the past, and it still does happen. It just doesn't happen very often. Okay? All right. So now that we've got that little Debbie Downer, let's move on to the history of supplementation. So Brian and I have been watching the history of food. If you have not watched it, it's really interesting. It not only tells us how we got to the place where we are with our grocery stores, with shopping, modern food system, but it gives us a little bit of insight into supplementation and modern medicine as well. So in the late 1800s and early 1900s, they discovered a lot of illnesses and diseases were stemming from the poor sanitation, right? The hygiene habits, which there weren't any. And because of that, a lot of people were getting sick, a lot of people were dying. So what do? They go straight for sanitization, right? They're going to sanitize. I'm going to look for Facebook while we're chatting. They're going to sanitize the heck out of all of the food, right? But what they didn't realize was it would remove vital nutrients, things that we actually needed. okay? What they thought is that we need just protein, carb, and fat. That's it. They didn't understand anything about the actual nutrient components within each of the foods, which is interesting because traditional medicine and ancient healing practices saw all of these things within plants, but our food system wasn't connected to the food system. Hi, Mandy. Yes, exactly. Um, so because of those things, because it wasn't connected to the food system, they weren't talking. That makes sense? And effectively, this arm wasn't talking to this arm. They didn't come together. Well, sterilization of your food depletes the food of all other nutrients except the fact that it is a source. And effectively, it is just a glucose source. So like white rice, white flour for breads, pasta flour that was just straight sterilized white came into effect. When was this? Early 18 or late 1800s, right around the turn of the century, effectively, okay? And the reason why is they were finding all of this food was making people sick, and they had a depletion of food, right? So they had to do something because they had to feed everybody. And then you've got the start of a world war in the middle of all of this because this took decades to recover from. Almost everything, not everything, almost. Honey can actually be dangerous in some situations. So anyway, what they were finding is these vitamin deficiencies were leading to things like pellagra, beriberi, and I think it's rickets is the other one. Okay, so all these people are dying. They're getting sores. They're having hallucinations. They're basically becoming paralyzed and delusional, and they're getting sick, but they're eating normal diets. And the majority of the people that became the concern, they weren't worried about the poor, because, I mean, God knows, why would you worry about them, right? They weren't worried about them. But this is high society. This was happening within high society, where they were eating rich foods. They could afford anything they wanted, effectively. But within high society, people were dying left and right because of vitamin deficiencies. And those vitamin deficiencies led to these illnesses and diseases, right? So they've sterilized food and pulled all the nutrients out of it. Now they're finding that illness and disease are occurring between 1900 and about the 1920s, early 1920s. That's when they discovered all of the nutrients, or the base, let me go back, the base. And they started developing, botulism was one of them as well. They started developing multivitamins, okay? That's what it was called. The term vitamin, it was spelled differently, but the term vitamin was actually coined first time ever in 1912. So when we look at our vitamin and mineral supplementation industry today, it's not very old, okay? It's very young. And we're learning left and right more and more information, okay? That's why you're seeing so much come out, because they discover something new and then all of a sudden it hits the market, right? So now you think, oh, well, I need that too, and I need this too, and I need this too. But that's not necessarily the case. At the time, people needed something to supplement for the white bread that they were having, the pasta and the rices. Sliced bread came about. I have that written down somewhere. Hold on. I was like, oh my gosh, sliced bread, really? Where did it go? I have no idea. Oh, here it is. 1928. Sliced bread has only been around for like less than 100 years. Wonder Bread started that. So then the 1860s, the 1860s is when milled white flour and milled flours to make rices and pasta sterilized started production. Okay, that's when it all started. Fast forward into the 1920s and 1930s, you've got multivitamins, you've got pediatric doctors, adult doctors, everybody is trying to figure out how to feed malnourished people who shouldn't be malnourished. So, Pepperidge Farms, heard of them? I just saw this on the history of food last night, so I had to bring it in today. I had to. 1937 was when Margaret Rudkin, the creator, the founder of Pepperidge Farms, that's when she first created her loaf of bread. That's when she released it for sale. And effectively what happened was her son was malnourished. And the food that she was buying wasn't feeding him. And she was losing him. He was dying, just like many other children at the time, okay? She needed to find a way. And, I mean, anybody out there, moms, aunts, uncles, grandparents, you know what I'm talking about. You want to find a way to help your loved ones. You want to. And you see that they're suffering, and you see that they're just whittling away, right? So she produces this bread, and here's the funny thing about her. She didn't bake. She didn't know how to bake. It's not like she could look up on YouTube and say, hey, how do I make a loaf of bread? So she started from scratch, tried to play with this recipe over and over and over, and created this really delicious loaf of bread that her son gobbled up. His health problems diminished, and he turned into a thriving little boy. Fast forward a couple of weeks, this is happening. The doctor's going, what is going on? He's made such a recovery. What are you doing? She feeds the doctor the bread. And that doctor started prescribing her bread to his other patients. And this was happening not just there, but across the country. So part of the reason that Pepperidge Farms became so big so as quickly as she did is because at the time, what people were finding was the sterilized food. So they're eating sterilized food and taking multivitamins. That doesn't necessarily allow us or allow our bodies to absorb all the nutrients. I've talked about it before where with your supplementation, you can only guarantee about 20%, 20 to 30%. There's a lot of studies that go out now with some of these higher level supplementations and supplement companies where they're proving that yes, you can get a higher volume. But just like in this example, just like in our history, we need to make sure that the bulk of our nutrients are coming from food. So now we get the supplementation, and fast forward, I mean, they basically they started with some simple multivitamins like A, E, and C, calcium, and I believe magnesium. Let me look. Vitamin C. Yeah, magnesium. So 1941, they created a multivitamin. It had 3 of the B vitamins. Did not have all of them. It just had 3. Vitamin C, vitamin D, calcium, and iron. In 1968, they added vitamin E, B6, B12, and magnesium. Fast forward to the 80s and 90s, and now we've got all of them. Okay, and today, what we're getting today is a lot more of that, the herbal blend. So people are finding that, getting it derived from food sources, from plants, from whole foods, from the ground, is producing a higher quality for our bodies. And by quality, what I mean is it's absorbable, it is digestible, it is metabolizable. I just totally made up a word. Welcome to my world. Our bodies are able to digest and metabolize these quality supplements and actually use the nutrients in them. That makes a quality supplement. It's not just about the production. and you do have to worry about the production. We aren't going into that today. We'll touch on it, but we're not going into that today. That can be a whole other thing. Yeah, ionized salt is, I mean, that came about because they discovered that people with thyroids needed something. So they put iodized salt in it. The bread, what eventually happened through the 1930s, 1940s, they enriched the flours. They basically put nutrients back in. One of the statements I saw, and that's how you get iodized salt, right? One of the statements I saw when I was just kind of checking my facts and getting some dates down is there is someone out there who has said you could take apple cider vinegar, put it into white bread, and voila, you have some B vitamins in your white bread. And that's effectively what enriched means. When I say I would much rather you not use enriched flours, enriched foods, avoid that term, which I say that often. The reason I say that is because effectively what you're eating is you're eating a food that the nutrients have been pulled out, the food's been sterilized, and now something else has been put back in. Your body's not going to absorb or use majority of what's in there. So eating the enriched foods, to me, it feels like a waste of time. That ultimately, that's it. It feels like a waste of time because you're eating something that you could basically just easily replace. You can easily replace a slice of white bread with a slice of whole grain bread. Does that mean you need to eat crunchy, chunky, whole grain bread? No, not anymore. Have you tasted some of the ones that are out there? Sourdough bread is actually one of the best breads to eat, especially for those of us with gut health issues and autoimmune conditions. Why? Because the sour part of the sourdough is fermented. And if you have gluten allergies, yes, that's a whole different topic, Mandy. That is a whole different topic. Not good on an everyday basis. Let me just answer that. Her question for those of you not paying attention to this is whole grain cereal by General Mills, good or bad? That's a whole different, unless they go GMO free. So all I'm going to say about that is not on an everyday basis. That is definitely a moderation, variety situation. Do not eat it every single day. I refuse to give up my Cheerios. I refuse to give up my Lucky Charms. I don't eat them every single day. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Because we could go down a whole rabbit hole with that one. All right, I totally lost my train of thought. Sorry, guys. So effectively, when you're looking at, enriched foods, got it. When you're looking at these enriched foods, what you're looking at is something that you could easily replace with another food. Not going to cost you much more. If anything, most times nowadays it won't cost you anything. And you're getting more of a whole food source. So have you heard the statement, you're either paying for health or you're paying for illness? It sucks when you don't have a lot of money and you have to budget very, very strictly. I get it. The last year and a half or so that I was in San Diego, I was making less than $1 a day. I get it. Bean and cheese burritos, can't really eat them anymore. But that's what I lived on. Bean and cheese burritos, water, and coffee with half and half, because I could get a cup of coffee anywhere in town for $1, $1.50, fill it up with half and half, right? And just keep refilling it all day long. It gave me nutrients to survive. Did it give me all the healthy nutrients I needed? No. I actually think it's part of the reason that my body decided, yeah, you know what, you're using us, we're done. Because up to that point, I knew about healthy eating. I was very into plant-based eating, very into health, very into supplementation, right? Supplement for preventative measures, not supplement for health measures, right? And that's what we're talking about today, is preventative versus health. That's ultimately the thing. So now when you're looking at enriched foods and being on a budget, there may come times where you just have to suck it up. But just know that the number one difference between an enriched food and something that is not enriched is going to be how full you feel. Sustainable eating effectively is what you're looking at in that situation. It will cost you a little bit more to have that whole grain bread. Maybe it's cheaper for you to make it yourself. When you're on that low of a budget, do what you got to do. Okay, it sucks ass, but you do what you got to do. And if you're eating white bread, you are going to be hungry in about 10 minutes. And granted, that's probably an exaggeration, but 10 minutes versus 2 to 3 hours, that's a big difference. And when you're struggling to try and find money for food, trying to find money to live, you need to make sure that what you're eating is going to fuel your body as well as you can get it to be fueled. Because the better the fuel, the more filling, the more sustainable that nutrition is. Okay, the more sustainable that food is. It keeps you full longer. It keeps you from needing to eat. And I don't advocate eating lightly. Okay, I don't like low consumption diets, but when you're struggling to pay bills, sometimes that is reality. So if that is your reality, look at foods that will keep you full longer. The foods that do that are the ones that have the most nutritional value in them. That is not the enriched foods. All right, so we're going to come off that soapbox. Yeah, you got to be careful with allergies, food allergies, and things like that, and we'll get there. So there are two types of vitamins and nutrients that we are talking about within supplementation. At least today, we could go off on tangents. We could totally go off on tangents. But for purposes of this discussion, we need to really just focus on two types: fat soluble and water soluble. And here's why. Water soluble vitamins are those that you can consume, and when your body sees that you've hit your threshold, you got enough in your system, it flushes out the rest. Fat soluble doesn't do that. It stores those. That's why vitamin D overconsumption of vitamin D supplementations or supplements, that's why that's such a thing right now, because people are over-consuming it, but your body's not letting go of the waste. It's holding on to it. So there are only, there's 4. A, D, E, and K. Okay? There's the ones you need to look for. The way that you know that you're either over-consuming, under-consuming, or not, or that you actually need to add it in or take it out, is through lab testing. Ultimately, it's through lab testing. You can have, symptoms that will say, oh, I think I've had too much of this or too much of that. But ultimately, the number one way is lab testing. And here's part of the reason I say that. So iron is a water-soluble vitamin, right? And this is a very common problem. Ferritin, which is on your lab report, right around where iron is your iron storage. Okay? It doesn't mean, a lot of times when you have side effects that would look like you are anemic, you're low in iron, or you're too high in iron, metal taste is too much iron, metal, then sometimes, and more often than I see an issue with iron itself, what is happening is the storage is the issue. The ferritin is the issue.
So that's why lab testing is so big. And it's something that we push. I firmly believe that science helps us with health. Do we need it every single day? Do we need a lab test every single month? Not unless you're fighting something serious. If you are in a situation with chronic illness or autoimmune illness, food allergies, sensitivities, things that are extreme, that are causing you an extreme amount or a severe amount, intense, however you want to phrase that, amount of issues every single month. And yeah, and you want to keep an eye on what's going on, because that's the thing. If you're dealing with intensity, if you're dealing with something that is extreme, you need to monitor. You need to make sure that you know exactly what's happening. So in that case, having a blood test run every single month or 4 to 6 weeks is really helpful. Ultimately, though, like for me with my thyroid, so I've been trying herbal supplements for 3 months. They've obviously been working. My energy's up. My hair is growing back. I no longer feel like I'm dragging my ass out of bed. So I know it's helping. I don't know how much it is helping until I redo my test. So in that situation, I usually recommend once every 3 months. With herbal supplementation, it takes a minute for your body to really start reaping the benefits of it, right? So you don't really know. There's things out there, nootropics for brain health, right? It's a lot of the fat-soluble vitamins, as well as some of the minerals out there that help with your brain health. There's some that include copper. There's magnesium, potassium. What's another one? Oh, brain just went blank. Anyway, and then you also have your omegas, okay? And your omegas are pretty key to brain health, joint health, bone health. And we are told that you need to have an omega every single day. What if you're a pescatarian? You eat fish every single day. You need it? The truth is told in your inside of your lab testing. But for the most part, if you're in a place where the fish that you're consuming is wild caught, it is fish oil is different. Omegas actually can come from plants as well as fish. So if you're in an area where you can have wild caught fish, so people in Hawaii, people on the West Coast, people in Japan, well, I don't know about Japan. Used to be Japan, let me put it that way. If you're in an area where the fish are just growing around you and you're getting a prevalent amount of it and it's wild caught, you may not need omegas. You may be putting too many omegas in your system. And I mean, your body does flush it out, but it's still going to have some lingering effects. Omegas in general, there's 3, 6, and 9. There's a couple of others, but you want to make sure with those that you don't really overdose and you don't overdo it. You want to monitor, you want to make sure that you're getting enough. So here in Texas, in the middle of Texas, I don't eat a lot of fish. To me, it doesn't taste like fish should taste. Between living on the West Coast and growing up on the East Coast, it just didn't, it just doesn't taste very good. It's very difficult for me to have fish here. So for me, having omegas every single day makes sense because I don't eat fish very often. I do when I go home. I do when I go visit all my family and friends on the West Coast because I'm going to eat that stuff every single meal if I can, and I'm going to get my fill. Your omegas are one of the key nootropics, nootropics, the new word. They're one of the key ingredients and nutrient supplementations or nutrients that fuels brain health, it fuels joint health, it fuels skin health, heart health, you name it. Ultimately, though, depression and mental illness and mental health in general, so focus, foggy brain, things like that, if you don't have that lubrication from your omegas, The synapses can't jump, you guys. It can't go signal sent, single received. It doesn't work that way. So when you have a depletion of that, when you're fighting a deficit, then you're going to have problems with concentration, just like you said, Mandy. Concentration, focus. You're going to have issues where you feel blah, but you may not understand why. And maybe you don't suffer from any depression, or another mental illness. And in that case, that's when you kind of look at your lab testing, because that is truly the only way you're going to know for sure what's inside your body, is to look at a lab test. Science it's huge. Okay. Look at your fish source. And I see your comment, Mandy, and this is why I'm saying this. Look at your fish source. And a couple of things you want to make sure. Look at the ingredient list. If a 5-year-old cannot pronounce the ingredients on that list, look it up. Find out if it is a scientific term for something that we commonly call something else, or if it's a additive for preservation, taste, flavor, color. The best fish to consume, the healthiest fish to consume, is freshly caught or flash frozen wild caught fish. No breading. Seasoning, maybe a little oil, maybe lemon juice, lime juice, things like that. Some fruits and vegetables around it. Oh, you can make that stuff taste so yummy. Salmon is one of the better fish, and we hear a lot about eating salmon, but you don't want to eat salmon all the time. Variety, remember? Variety and moderation. So you don't eat salmon every single day. You shake it up, get a bunch of different things. With your omegas, you want to make sure that rather than saying, oh, I had fish today, so I'm not going to have this, you look at your whole life. You look at a week. The weeks that I go home, I don't usually take my omegas with me because I know how much fish I'm going to be eating. I don't need an extra supplementation for that week. I just need to make sure that I'm eating the fish that I usually do. There's a couple of reasons why we now have the supplement industry that we do. And the biggest reason is, like we have been talking about all morning, is deficit, right? Deficit within our food source, deficit within our society. And because of each of those, it's important to look at some of the reasons why we still have such a thriving industry. Diet, our growth process, so growing of our food and the production of our food. Stress affects the inflammatory system or the adrenal system, blah, 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 right? Our environment and scarcity of nutrients within our food, which leads us back to growth process, production process. Over the years, since supplementation became anything, since it was actually created, since vitamins were first invented and first needed, what has happened to our food source is they've added things into the seeds that helps protect the plants against bugs, right? Fertilizer to help us grow more food. Bigger food doesn't mean that bigger is better, though. Like the bigger corn, the bigger chickens, the bigger zucchini and cucumbers and all of that, that's great. But if it's bigger and has the same volume of nutrients, vitamins and minerals as a cucumber this size, is it really helping us? So that's where we lead to, what do you do about it? Do you need to supplement every single day? Testing will tell you one way or the other what you need, right? What you actually need in your every single day life. What will help on your side is to look at where you're buying your food, what their growth process is, just like we were just talking about with the fish, and making sure that it's wild caught, making sure that, what you're catching is effectively straight from the source, but it's well fed, it's healthy. It's not something that's been fed hormones. It's not something that has been kept inside such a tight quarters. I mean, think about it, you guys. You look back at history, you look at New York. Let's just go with the boroughs of New York. The amount of illness and disease that stemmed from all those people living in such close quarters. That's what's happening to the food system. That's what happens to the cows and the chickens and the farm-raised fish. That's what happens. It's nature. It's reality. Mother Nature doesn't like when things are crowded. So she's going to figure out a way to restore balance. Restore homeostasis. We always come back. Homeostasis is right. I swear it's going to be on my gravestone. Homeostasis. But that's, we always come back to that balance. So when you're looking at supplements and how to know what you actually need, you need to look at what you're eating. Look at where you're getting your food. So I love farmers markets. Love them. It is not necessarily conducive to everyone's lifestyle to go visit a farmer's market. I get that. I understand. There are a couple of alternatives. So Misfits Markets, Imperfect Foods. I think there's one called the Farmer's Box or Farmer's Box or something like that. Another thing you can do is look around locally. We have a couple of farmers that have banded together around here, and they produce their own box, and they're delivering in some neighborhoods, but not in others. And those deliver to your front door. So if your lifestyle does not dictate that you have the time, the wherewithal, or even the desire to go to a farmer's market, you can have it delivered to you. The produce does not look like what you see in the grocery store. So what you see in the grocery store has been picked for color, attraction, size, and how long it will stay on their shelves. That's what's sitting in your grocery store. So 9 times out of 10, the food that you find and you buy inside the grocery store has zero flavor. I have so many people that give me shit for putting my tomatoes from the grocery store into the refrigerator. They don't really have much flavor anyway. So putting them into the refrigerator, it's not a big deal to me. I'm just going to do it because there's no difference to me whether they are room temp or whether they're in the refrigerator. It's also part of the reason I put little tiny baby tomatoes in my hydroponic, because I want fresh grown tomatoes. They are absolutely amazing. They are delicious. If you have not tried it, I challenge you to do this, especially it is spring reset month. This month is all about produce. Markets are starting to open, right? Produce is starting to pop out left and right. And yes, it's early in the month, but still, it really is. Get something that you enjoy from standard grocery store. Kroger. I do not shop at Walmart. Sorry, guys. Won't do it. Go to Kroger, go to Aldi, whatever your local grocery store is. Grab your favorite fruit or vegetable. And then go to farmer's market, somewhere where you can get that produce from someone locally grown. Okay, and here's why I say locally grown. Because a lot of the local farmers cannot afford an organic certification. It's very expensive. It costs a lot of money every single year. They simply cannot afford it. Doesn't mean they're not growing that way. All it means is they can't afford that certification. So the chances that you're getting whole food nutrition with a much higher nutrient value than you are in a grocery store are pretty high. And I'm talking all over the country at this point, you guys. New York, Boston, LA, or not LA, San Fran, Chicago, you guys have rooftop stuff going on.
hydroponic gardens. I mean, it's all over this. The growth system is huge. You can find this food. The more nutritionally rich your food, the more flavor. It can look funky. It can be all sorts of weird shapes, right? But if it is nutritionally dense, this goes for plants, this goes for meats, just like you're saying, Mandy. It goes for basically anything we consume. The more nutritionally dense, the more flavor. Tomatoes are a great example. They really are. Because you get a tomato from a grocery store and then you get a homemade, homegrown, naturally grown tomato. The difference, I mean, it's night and day. It really is night and day. And it is exactly the same way for everything else. So I challenge you to do this. Now, April is Spring Reset Challenge month. So if you do this, pop your picture in. I want to hear about it. I want to hear what your experience was. Am I right? Am I wrong? I want to know. All right, so I know I put this out as like the dangers of supplementation. Hopefully throughout all of this, you've gotten a bit more insight into how to look at your supplements. If you have a closet or a cabinet full and your supplement box is overflowing, take a minute to look at what you really need. Because the things that you are taking for preventative may or may not be helping you. You could be taking too much. And a lot of what I see nowadays is exactly that, is people are just taking too much. Because we are thrown so many bright, shiny objects. And, it's hard to say, oh my God, I don't need this, when someone's saying, well, here's the science. It says we need this, this, and this nutrient. It's going to help our brain. That foggy brain that you feel? Here's how it's going to help. That gut dysfunction, upset tummy, here's something that's going to help. And here's something else that's going to help your allergies. And here's something else that's going to help your skin. And now all of a sudden you have all these supplements. And you don't necessarily need all of them. Do we need to supplement? Is it something that everyone needs to do? Absolutely. Because our food system really is depleted. There is no question about that. However, you don't necessarily need as much as a lot of us think. When you're thrown advertisements left and right, and people with various direct marketing products, they're in network marketing. I have a couple of the products myself, and I use several of them. I go for the product quality. Have I made a dime in any of them? No. I don't buy their products so I can make money off of them. I buy their products because they are healthy for me and they're what my body needs. One of them just came out with one that is like an all-inclusive and actually includes a lot of the ingredients, a lot of the herbal supplementation that I need for my thyroid. So I'll keep you updated. I'll let you know how that goes over the next month. Little experiment. But it also comes down to, when I looked at it, because it was a bright, shiny object, I looked at it and I evaluated what was already in my pill box. And is it replacing everything and giving me exactly what I need? Or am I just putting a shiny object in my box? When you look at your pill box, when you look at your supplement cabinet, whatever, like we have a basket, whatever you have, look at it and see what you actually need to have on hand. Okay? Then put them up. These are the ones I need every single day. These are the ones that I need when X, X, X.
When you do that, you have a much healthier perspective of it, much healthier view, right? But having that view of it also means that you're getting the most out of them. If you're taking everything just so that you can make sure it's there just in case, that can be detrimental in some cases. And these vitamins and supplements that you have in your cabinet that you don't necessarily need every single day, those are the ones that are going to be I need them because there's a reason you need to take this, and this. I know for a fact I have to take B complex every single day. I do. My body does not like to get its B vitamins from food. Kind of a little bit of a spoiled brat in that way. So I don't necessarily absorb as many B vitamins from my food as I should. And I feel it. It shows up in my lab work. I feel it when I don't take them. If I don't have them in my system by 1 o'clock, and literally that afternoon coffee, that's not going to cut it. It's not going to do anything to help me. Okay? So those are things that you want to look at once you're now at this point. Supplements can be the best helping hands ever, but they can also be very dangerous. So take that healthier perspective, that healthier view of your supplementations, and split them up. Once you have it down, you could put a little cheat sheet. I literally have a cheat sheet somewhere in this house that I had written up for Brian a long time ago. And it was so that he could look at things and go, okay, I need this today, or I need that today, or I need to make sure I have these things in my box every single week. He actually uses a pill box, I know. It annoys me. My biggest issue is actually physically taking them. That is my problem, is I have to remind myself to take my supplements. So for me, I have to take as little as absolutely possible. And we talked about taking pills. I suck at taking pills. So those powders that are up there in my cabinet are perfect. But those little jars, they sit right next to the coffee. They have to. If they're not right next to the coffee, it's going to be 6, 7 o'clock, and all of a sudden I'm going to clue in to why I was struggling to make it through the afternoon. And here's the issue with me taking my powders, putting my powders in my smoothies. And for those of you that don't know, the reason I'm calling them powders, they're actually powder phytonutrients. Combine them all, plus a couple of the capsules and supplementation, and you now have my multivitamin. The supplementations for my thyroid. And I point up here because you can see the lines. And the little baby hairs are going in. It's kind of cool. But the powders, you put it in water, juice, milk, whatever, shake it up and drink it. And for me, exactly what I need. But if it's not directly in my face, I'm not going to remember it until it's too late. And having supplements at 5 or 6 o'clock means I am up till like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And then the boys are up at 6 or 7. And it used to be that I would wake up, I would have to get up for work at, like 4 or 5 and 6. So it's kind of funny that now, it's the same situation, different reasons that I have to be up early. But without that reminder, and if you need a reminder, give yourself a reminder. You don't need to have to stress about this every single morning. You need to figure out what you need, right? What works for you. Cheat sheets if you need to. Keep it simple. This is what works for me. This is what we're going to do. This is what my lab work says. So, nope. Done. You no longer have to think about it. So I have 2 closing statements for you. One quick question. What about the supplements that boost fixing joint health that just had knee surgery? Well, here's the thing with recovering from surgery, illnesses, injuries. What you need is to make sure that your diet is as full of whole food nutrition as possible, first of all. Lots of the leafy greens, tart leafy greens, cruciferous foods, the orange vegetables are really helpful in healing, and healthy fats. And the number one thing I see people not do when they're recovering is you actually need to up your protein intake. The carbohydrates are going to fuel healing, right? But something has to fuel the carbohydrate production, right? The energy production. That comes from protein. So you need to up your protein intake so that your body has enough fuel, produce the energy to start healing everything. There isn't really any supplementation that you need to fix injuries or recover from injuries or illnesses, anything like that. It's definitely something that if you are low in something, like if you're low in omegas, it's going to affect how long it takes you to heal. If you're low in vitamin D, it's going to affect you. Iron is one that if you're low in it, then absolutely it's going to affect how long it takes you to heal. By upping your protein, and you only want to up it about 10 to 20%, if that. So like add an extra serving of protein every day. So for you, you're looking at, you want about 60 to 70 grams of protein every day. So you're looking at, you want to go up to about 80. And if you take some of that and make sure that, between like 40 to 50% is plant-based, then you don't feel like you're eating so much food. It doesn't have to come from animals. Protein sources can come from your fruits and vegetables as well. Coconut oils, avocados, olive oils and olives, things that are the monounsaturated fatty acids that are plant-based are really helpful for you. So one thing you can look at to keep it really simple and easy, look at the Mediterranean diet, look at some of the recipes within that diet, and you'll get everything you need. Absolutely. Peanut butter? But that's it. Add an extra serving of protein, and you'll get what you need. And keep your diet as plant-based and wholesome as possible. Like I said, Mediterranean diet really has been known to help people recover from injuries and illnesses, much more so than any other. I know there's people out there that say you have to go keto or you have to go, total blank, you guys, like complete blank, holy crap. But anyway, the protein base. So paleo, Atkins. I was thinking Active. Active is a freaking fitness company. So anyway, Mediterranean diet's really good. It has a lot of healthy monounsaturated fatty acids. It is plant-based, and that diet, those recipes will really help you recover quicker, much more so than any supplement you can take. Thank you. Gluten-free, honestly, gluten-free is not going to affect whether you heal or you don't heal. Gluten's the component in wheat. So the problem with gluten, and the reason so many people have issues with gluten, is because gluten is actually one of the harder to digest molecules. Plus, it kind of absorbs a lot of the preservatives and the pesticides and crap like that. So it just makes it that much worse. So anyway, all right. We are good. If you have questions, you know how to reach me. If you're new here, my email, my website, everything is linked down below. And I always give out my cell phone number. So if you see a phone number, that does come directly to me. All right. We are in the middle of our spring reset. So if you want to be part of this challenge, let me know. Just join in the Facebook group and on the Nudge app. Pick. 2 things I want to leave you with. Know what's going in your mouth. Supplement, food, I don't care what it is. Know what's going in your mouth. And know what its purpose is. All right? You deserve to have a healthy diet. You deserve to have a healthy body. And knowing what's going in your mouth. All right, y'all. Go have a great Monday. I will chat with you guys later. The first weekly challenge is up in the group. I will get it up in the Nudge app in just a minute. So those of you over there, you'll see that popping up. Bye, guys. Have a great day.